Very good afternoon, members of the press, fellow Zimbabweans, fellow Africans. Welcome to this very important press briefing from the Citizens Candidate Independent Selection Panel, which is conducting our internal election processes to produce members of parliament, councillors, and our presidential candidate. I will not take much of our time. I'm going to defer proceedings to the commissioner that is responsible for this process to brief the media, after which, as per the tradition, we are going to take a few questions. Commissioners.
Right, so good afternoon, members of the press. We once again meet to give you, the press and the citizens of Zimbabwe, an update on the CCC candidate selection process. This is in fulfillment of the mandate of the Citizens Candidates Independent Selection Panel. It is our greatest assurance and endeavor to deliver candidates that are the product of free, fair, credible, and transparent process. We remain guided by the values, principles, and objectives of CCC candidate selection regulations and procedures. As highlighted at our first press briefing, the CCC candidate selection process comprises of 4 key milestones, that is, candidate nomination, candidates vetting, candidates caucuses, declaration of successful candidates. The panel is committed to updating the press and the citizens on the candidate selection outcomes at all stages of the process, and in this case, the focus is on candidates nomination. Candidate selection process commenced in earnest in all the 10 provinces on the 5th of April 2023, despite some teething problems necessitated by logistical challenges. The nomination process had an overwhelming response with success rate in all the 210 constituencies and all the wards countrywide. The nominated candidates are now undergoing the second stage of selection process, which is vetting, after which the vetted candidates will go for the third stage of validation, which we will announce the final list of successful candidates. In the circumstances, the summary outcome of the candidates' nomination after consulting with stakeholders, village and street committees is as follows. In local authority nominations, nominations have been received from all the 36,000 villages, and thousands of streets, and 1,970 wards. For the House of Assembly nominations, we have received nominations from all 210 constituencies. An interesting phenomenon has been noted in some hotly contested constituencies. For instance, a constituency where 11 nominations were received for 1 seat. The success factor for this process is also exhibited with the positive candidate nomination returns in some difficult to penetrate areas for the opposition that include Gokwe, Uzumba, Menezi, amongst others. Then for the big one, the presidential nomination, Mr. Chamisa Nelson has been nominated as the presidential candidate by all streets and villages whose returns are in our possession. For the women and youth nominations, although CISP is yet to finalize its tally, indications are that an unprecedented number of women have been nominated. A significant number of women is also emerging in both the first past the post and proportional representation nomination. The youth factor is another exciting and emerging aspect of the nomination process outcome, which is a positive in ensuring intergenerational synergies within CC. Now coming to the vetting. So the credentials and track record checklist for candidate selection. The vetting and security checklist will look into the following. Firstly, qualifications, that is in compliance with the relevant statutes of Zimbabwe, the Constitution, the Electoral Act, CCC, Candidate Selection Procedures Manual, Community Standing and Track Record, Performance in Communities, Political History and Record, Capacity and Capability and Competence, Security, Integrity, Ethics, Loyalty and Service Record. Then we move on to the caucuses. A date has been set for the caucuses that will happen all over the country, for which we shall announce the name of successful candidates. In conclusion, as we embark on the vetting stage of candidate selection, it is prudent to assure citizens that all nominated candidates will receive fair and equal opportunities during the process. I thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. On the result of VOA Studio 7. Were there any complaints? Some of the candidates that have been speaking to the media are saying that there have been challenges in the nomination process and that they feel the process may exclude them. Have you received any complaints so far at this stage?
Yes, we confirm that we have received complaints and grievances from across the countries, and these grievances are being handled by that particular committee, which is specifically made for that. We also have a few issues here in Harare where we are still just concluding those processes, but it's just a few ones.
So, Mr. Nelson Chamisa has been nominated by most of the, like you mentioned, has he been endorsed yet? Or does he have to go for vetting?
The procedure and the process in terms of our procedure manual is clear, but what we have given you is what we have so far. So, as I've said, there are few words in which we are still yet to receive returns, just in case we may get one or two nominations from there. So, at this juncture, the process is not yet complete. But for those that we have received, resoundingly, Mr. Nelson Chamisa is the only candidate that was chosen.
People with disabilities complaining that they've been left out of this nomination process, particularly by you and the other major party, which is ZANU-PF. I mean, is there a quota for PYDs, given that they constitute about 10% of the population?
Yeah, I would defer some of the issues to the political party to then address, especially that one. Yes.
Okay, so you say that you're going to have caucuses following this for the vetting process. Can you maybe just give us a little bit on who is part of the caucus meetings that you're going to have for the vetting processes?
All right, so let me just clarify. The vetting process, as I have highlighted in terms of the criteria that one has to meet, it's in terms of the party's which is procedures and manual. So they've got a committee that is specifically set up to do that particular vetting. Now, the last stage now are the caucuses that are going to be happening in the respective wards, in the respective villages. So, for example, let's say after the vetting process in a particular ward or any particular constituency, we are now left with two candidates. So that caucus will then deal with those two candidates so that that particular constituency emerges with one candidate, so to speak. So there is then need for consensus within the ward or the constituency to then come up with one candidate, which we are going to announce in due course.
Thank you very much from the Commission. I'm going to deal with the question on from Studio 7 around PWDs. Excuse me. Of course, we have made a decisive and clear position that our processes must be all-inclusive of different sections of society. If you note from the number of nominations that we've received, you have seen people from different races, you have seen people from different genders, you have seen people from different tribal and cultural background. Why this is important for us to submit the process in the hands of the citizens, because it is them who are able to deploy. But nonetheless, you can look at where the party deploys, particularly for proportional representation in parliament and in local authorities. That's where we have the ability to be able to deploy people of different backgrounds, and definitely you will see from our process. And not only that, if you look at the composition of our panel, we also have people who are in the commission, particularly in Bulawayo, who's actually from the community of people living with disabilities. So it shows our staying commitment, it shows that we are all inclusive, and we're going to make sure, and as if they've said, it's very interesting because the current process produced what ordinarily internal party primaries would not have produced, because you are seeing the elderly, you are seeing younger people, you are seeing a lot of people, even with competence, being nominated. Remember that our process was happening in a two-side system, conversing with the people in the villages and the streets, but also talking to stakeholders. So there are some people who actually came from the stakeholders, were not necessarily from the street point person, to show that we want it to be more inclusive, to show that we want to make sure that everyone who has got the capacity and whom the society and the community feels must be forwarded are the people who are going to be vetted, after which we go to the last and final stage of validation. From validation during our caucuses, we're going to then make it public. Of course, it is the duty of the commission to do that, to make sure that they announce the final list of the successful candidates.